I am so glad that you are here tonight. Thank you. This is the last planned night for this missions conference. Worldwide New Testament Baptist Missions has 18 families on deputation. 14 of those families have been able over the last few weeks to share with you what God is doing. And you've supported this meeting. You've been here. Many of you haven't missed a night. And I say thank you. From the bottom of my heart, I so appreciate people who have a passion for missions. That's why we did this conference. When I thought about it, and I thought, what could we do during COVID-19 to keep missions alive? I speak in a lot of missions conferences every spring, and I knew I wasn't going to be speaking anywhere. And our missionaries, dozens and dozens of meetings had canceled, and I knew they'd be home, and I knew they'd be willing. And many of them were willing, and many of them helped us with this. And I'm so excited. I know you don't want us to stop. Truth be told, I don't want to stop either. So stay tuned in the days ahead to see what we have planned, because we do have something planned. Many of you have sent me messages and told me how the conference blessed you. And tonight, this last live stream, I reserved it for tonight. I wanted to end the conference on this presentation, because this presentation is not so much about a person, although the person is in it. Tonight is, it's just something really special, because it's about a place. And the people who appear in this video, they're watching. They just text messaged me. They're 15 hours ahead of Eastern time, and they're watching their story told tonight. And so when I watched this presentation for the first time, what you're going to see in just a minute, I was by myself in the house, and I was sitting in my recliner, and I watched the first draft of this video. And no one else was in the room. And I got done, and I took my breath. And I said, I don't want to spoil it. So all right, I'll show you the video, and then when we show you the video, I'll tell you what I said. So without saying anything more, let's watch.
Can you imagine in your mind's eye a beautiful island, crystal clear waters teeming with fish, palm trees and coconuts on a secluded beach, and sunsets that are the beautiful paintings of God? Now imagine that this tiny island is home to less than 300 people, and is so small it barely even shows up on a map. The island of Nucoro is quite literally one of the most remote places on the entire planet. With no airport on the island, it is only accessible by the cargo ship that transports supplies to the island just a few times per year. Now, have you considered that the precious souls on this island need to hear the gospel? Missionaries Jack and Melinda Peeler did not allow the distance from home or the lack of modern conveniences to stop them from obeying God's command to take the gospel to the uttermost.
Well, first of all, we were in the Helps Ministry. We went to help Ruth Ann Arthurs at the radio station. While I was there working, Ray Ezekias from Calvary Baptist Church was the assistant pastor. He came to help me one day, and we prayed before we get started work that morning, and he said pray that someone would go to Nucoro and help start a church there. So we kept praying about it, and then the Lord just convicted us and asked us to go and help, and we just took off. And it's just been a wonderful experience to be over there and see the people get saved and the ministry grow.
When we went there, there was nothing on the island. There was nothing there, hard. And it was hard in the beginning, and there was times when I felt like, oh Lord, I can't do this, I can't make it. But by the time it got time for that next ship to come back three months later, the Lord had settled my heart, and I knew that I could do it, that He was there with me, and I could make it.
We started out in a tent, and we built a tiny home. It's very basic, but it really meets our needs. And we have everything that kind of modern convenience has. I mean, we have, you know, a shower, we have a little kitchenette in it, we have a table in it, we have 2 desks, we have a bed, fans, lights, all solar. So it's a little off-grid, but it's very comfortable.
When we come back here to the States, we're always so rushed and it's got to go here and do this and take care of that and see this person. And then when you get to the island, it's just you and the daily routine and the people. And you have a lot more work to do, but yet you got more time to just be with people. We didn't even know Nakoro existed until 2010.
Yeah.
And since we found out about Nakoro, God put it on our hearts. And we just couldn't get away from it. Had to go.
And here we're back in the States.
Wanting to go back.
Wanting to go back.
Wanting to get back.
A nice house with air conditioning. A grocery store down the road. But yet we're wanting to go back so bad. We're chawing at the bit. At the time we were there, there's 233 people and 41 have accepted Christ as their Savior. And we've started Bible studies. We've started a Wednesday night service and Sunday services, a kids club. We do an evening service on Tuesday. We want to get back and do a men's Bible study and teen Bible study. We have a local NAS that we're having our services on Sunday on our island, which when we first started out it was a tarp, and now it's more substantial, and the people see it as their church building.
I'm encouraged by the ladies' Bible study that we have on Thursday afternoons. We have a ladies' Bible study. We've got a few ladies that are becoming very faithful, and they drink it in. They want to know more about the Lord, and so we're just excited to see that door open up. I enjoy teaching the ladies, and they enjoy learning.
They're just so open, and they're excited that somebody's over there willing to show them the truth, and it's just amazing. It's so amazing because we were in this helps ministry and we would go and build things, but as far as working one-on-one with people,
yeah,
we didn't have that experience, that joy. And going over there now and being with them, it's just,
yeah,
it's overwhelming. It touches your heart in a whole different avenue that you've never experienced.
It's hard to imagine, but here you've got this little tiny speck of land out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. 1 square mile of land. If you take all the little islets and push them together, it's just 1 square mile of land. Just over 230 people or so living on there. And yet God's concerned about that one little speck. Those people are important. They're just as important as the people here in the United States. They're just as important as the people anywhere else in the world, and God cares about them.
Remember the couple that came from Fiji? They sailed all the way to Nakoro just to see the white people on the island. And they asked us why. And I said, because we want to give the gospel out. Because these people are dying and going to hell every day. And if we're not over there doing it, who's going to? There's nobody over there doing it. We've got an opportunity to step in and see these people hear the true gospel and get saved. I wish we could do more.
Our idea when we went there was to build something that would live on after us. We don't want the church to cease to be once we're not there anymore. We want this ministry to go on and a church to be established that would be indigenous, and that someday there would be a Nakoran man that would be the pastor. So 30 years from now, we'll all be gone, and we want somebody else to be there that can carry on the work.
30 years, I'm not living 30 more years. But we need somebody to help us take it to the next level. And that's why we're making this video, because we don't know what else to do. except to pray and let God, let Him touch somebody's heart out there and give them the joy of Nakora. What a blessing.
Did the video affect you like it did me? I just watched it again. I watched it with you, and I was touched that day. And to know the people whose lives are told in that video are watching, and they're praying tonight, and it's morning there, and they're saying, God, could you send us somebody who could take it to the next level? I promise to tell you what I said. I watched that video. I leaned forward in my recliner and I said, what am I doing here? And in my heart of hearts, I know what I'm doing here. I know thing. Let me advance the cause of but I saw that and I thought I could do that. I don't have the skills of a Jack Peeler. I don't. I don't have the heartbeat of a Melinda Peeler. But I thought I could do something. When they said God cares about the tiny speck of land as much as He cares about America or the nation from which you're watching tonight. And then I saw that little boy. I don't know why he held his fingers up like this. I saw that little fella and it made me think God does care about tiny specks and big places and places where there's 300 people and places where there are 300 million people. I know what I'm doing here, but I still ask myself the question. And I imagine in your heart tonight, you asked yourself the same question. Am I the one who's supposed to take it to the next level? One of the peelers said, it touches your heart in a whole other avenue. Some of you might have smiled when you saw the modern conveniences of an RV shower head and said, we've got it great here. You say, I could never do that. But boy, if you knew God called you to a place, you know you could do that. You know that this is exactly what God would have you to do. You say, well, that's like camping. Yeah, but there's a lot of other things besides that. The boat comes back every 3 months. And right now, during COVID-19, 2 problems. The boat is broken down. And 2, they're not allowing travel. There are school kids that are trying to get back to their home island. School is shut down until 2021 there. And I realize God does care about places like this. There are places like Nakoro all over the world, places God knows about. Places like Colton Lee, who told us last night about, to say, I'll go find the places and come back and tell you. And then there are people like the peelers who'll say, I'll go live in that place, but they're needing someone else to go. And I want you to think beyond Nakoro for just a moment and think about places where they need a missionary. And I want you to seriously consider, what does God want you to do? Those are haunting words. We need someone who can take it to the next level. I laughed each time I saw Melinda tell Jack, 30 years. Jack said, I don't think I have 30 years. If you want to know who the peelers are like, they're just like you saw them in the video. They're just real people. I remember when Brother Peeler, I met him the first time. He came and talked to me and he just said, I just want to help. And not to belabor a point, but he just said, I don't have a lot of skills. I don't want to be a preacher. I don't want to preach. I just want to go help. And then I remembered when he called me back years later and said, I want to preach. And he came back and he got ordained and he got to be used in the gospel ministry this way. And now he's there. He's here. He's in Pohnpei now, but he's wanting to get back. And COVID-19 has just shut down so much. But what did you say? If you're brave enough, put that in the comments. What did you say? What did your kids say when you saw that? I don't want you to let this escape your heart tonight. You say, well, Brother O'Malley, I'm overwhelmed. I want you to know, so am I. I watched this again this evening and my heart was still moved. I know what I'm doing here, but do you know what you're doing here? And why you're not somewhere being used for the cause of the gospel? But I told you there was a second thing I wanted to talk to you about tonight. It's not just someone going to that field or someone dealing with the very fact that God is calling them. And tonight, God made it so clear to you. But how does a missionary even get a video like this? I mean, it's not like you can pick up the phone and dial 1-800 missionary video. You can't Google this and say, show me a cool video. You say, hey, Siri, show me this. And now I just probably triggered your Siri, but nonetheless, but you can't just say, hey, get me this video. And you can't go to a Hollywood producer and say, could you put my ministry inside of your lens and tell my story? You can't hire a secular firm and say, come see my harvest field and help me tell my churches about the work God's called me to do for him. You can't just say to them, could you bring your lens to my harvest and let you see what God is doing? No. The video you saw last night with Colton and Melody, the video you saw tonight, how it skillfully brought the mission field to us. Videos like this bring missions into focus. Videos like this are like the lens of a harvest. And my thought is, you probably didn't know about Nakoro either. Maybe you didn't even know there was a place called Micronesia. But have you ever thought, who makes videos like this? Who helps tell the stories like the Peelers? I want to introduce you to someone. He's actually the man who did make those videos, the one you saw last night and the one you saw tonight. May I introduce to you the man who is behind the lens of the camera, and his name is Nathan Fry. Nathan, welcome to the Online Missions Conference.
Thank you, Brother O'Malley.
Brother Nathan Fry is a missionary with Worldwide New Testament Baptist Missions, and his ministry, I kind of snuck it in there if you think about it. His ministry is called Lens of the Harvest. He made that video. Brother Fry, thank you for making the video. Thank you for telling us the Peeler story. Thank you for telling us of the need that is there on their island. You've lived in Micronesia. You put the Peelers video together. When did you first know you could do nothing else but serve missionaries in the Great Commission?
Brother O'Malley, I don't know that the answer to that question for me is a time and a date and a place with a particular spot on the calendar. I think for me, it's a step-by-step process, and I could spend probably all of our time tonight talking about the steps that God has taken me through. But I think the most important for me was the moment in my life sitting in my church growing up, probably in my teenage years, when God spoke to my heart and I knew I needed to surrender to him. And after a service, I got alone in a quiet place and I told him I would do whatever he wanted me to do. Mm-hmm. At that moment, I could not have envisioned any of what would have come so far in my life, the places he's taken me, the things he's allowed me to do, or that I would have the opportunity to serve missionaries by making videos. But I believe that all of the steps that he's taken me through have gotten me to exactly where he wants me to be today.
You know, Brother Nathan, I want everybody to know tonight was going to be just about Nathan and his ministry. And Nathan came to me and he said, Brother O'Malley, can I give my night for the Peelers to tell their story? And I said, yes and no. And we decided we would do it in this format to let you see what Brother Fry does and let it hit you to realize every missionary needs somebody to tell the story like this. I mean, my goodness, you've watched missionary presentations before, and some are memorable and some are memorable for the wrong reasons. And Brother Nathan Fry is committed to telling the story of what missionaries are doing. What about the Peelers ministry and their video? What is it that inspires you, their message, Nathan? What is it?
I think that the Peelers video is a special video. And even in the process of creating it, I didn't realize how special it was until I started getting feedback like yours of how it made you feel. And the truth is, in editing the video, I felt the same way. I had to ask myself the same hard questions. And what it's done for me is it's really inspired me to make every video with everything that I have to tell that same story, to have people ask those hard questions. Is God calling me? Should I go? Is this a ministry that I can help with? And, I have to say that no amount of fancy editing could portray the Peelers' heart the way the Peelers portrayed their own heart. And their heart and their passion for what God has called them to do inspires me. And like I said, one of my goals, honestly, one of the things that inspires me is that, I just dream of the day that some young man or some young woman will approach me and say, Nathan, God called me to the mission field after watching one of your videos. And, this opportunity tonight to show the Peelers video in front of this online audience, I just, it's my hope and my prayer that maybe that night is tonight, that maybe somebody is watching that will be the first one that will say, God's called me after watching one of your videos. And that really excites me.
Oh, me too. That's why I show up every night, hoping, praying that somebody out there will watch and say, it was on the whatever night of the online missions conference. We had nothing else to do. We'd seen every rerun of Andy Griffith. We'd watched all the reruns of everything that we could possibly think of. And we just gave 30 minutes a night to the online missions conference. And God touched me that night. And the night I saw the Peelers video was the night I knew God wanted me to do this. I know I didn't ask you for questions tonight, but if you have questions, you can put them in the comments, and we're going to do everything we can to get to them. But the comments that you all are putting in, Ann Jackson said, Brother John O'Malley, I'm asking God what he wants me to do. Dr. Bill Wingard says this is just precious, and special commendations to the Peelers as they bring the gospel, the good news to the islands. And folks out in Ponape are watching right now, besides the Peelers, and I shout out to the Veracruz family for watching as well. Nathan, you have friends all over the world that you've made. What are some of the special memories that God's given you as you are a missionary who uses your lens to tell the story of the harvest? Tell me about a special place to which you've been that just stands out to you, that I took my lens here and God did this.
The first thing that pops to mind is probably not a warm, cuddly feeling story. But earlier in this conference, we heard from Brother Joshua Rhodes, who formerly served in Guyana, and we were privileged to go there. And, we were there at a time that for Brother Rhodes was very difficult. And we were able to experience some of that alongside of him and see some of what his family was going through. And really, that's a valuable experience for me to be able to really understand what a missionary faces. And it's not all pleasant, and it doesn't always get put in the prayer letters, and it doesn't always get put in the video. But that's just actually a special memory that I was able to see some of those things with Brother Rhodes.
Yeah. As I think about this tonight and I see all these comments coming in, and I rejoice over all of them. But anybody can do something for Christ. Anyone can. And Nathan, I know you've made videos that a church can access and show to their congregation to kindle the missionary fire. How does somebody even find you? How do they find Lens of the Harvest for them to be able to say, I know a missionary, he needs your help, or to say, could we show your videos in our church? And how do they find you?
The very best way is to find us at our website, which is lensoftheharvest.com. And you can find a lot of our videos on our YouTube channel, which is also Lens of the Harvest.
I want you folks to do that. I think that I'm looking at these comments, and somebody just said they're praying for someone to go help the Peelers. And Michelle is saying it's a remarkable video. Thank you, Brother Fry. Brother Fry, when you get to tell someone's story like this, and you see someone submit to go to God's call? Does it make you want to keep going?
Absolutely. Definitely. It motivates me.
Yeah. It motivates us here at Worldwide New Testament Baptist Missions. And truthfully, as I look at these comments that are here tonight and I see you there, Brother Fry, I know Christian camp plays a part in your life. Christian college plays a part in your life. Missions trips play a part in your life. God's used a lot of things to get you where you are. And I want you to know that we at Worldwide New Testament Baptist Missions are proud to be associated with Lens of the Harvest and thrilled that you are a missionary with our missions agency. And Brother Fry, I want you to speak to some young man. Maybe he's half your age and he's trying to figure out life. He's trying to figure out, what am I going to do and where am I going to go? Could you talk to him for just a moment, or her?
Sure. I mentioned it at the very beginning, the question of how did you get where God wanted you to be? And it's following that daily, just step by step follow. My journey really probably started with Bible college. And interestingly enough, my senior year of Bible college, somebody mentioned an island in Micronesia that I had never heard of. And I went. And without belaboring that point, God allowed me to meet my wife there and opened up so many things where, for a while I was scared to surrender. I didn't know what it would mean if I surrendered, if I gave my life to God. Where would he send me? What would he have me to do? But the truth is, he's not yet asked me to do anything that made me miserable.
Amen. I love that. And I think about that, made me think of the Peelers, and my mind flashed to the tent. And they thought it was great. And they think, what we call a church building and what they call a church building, and they think it's great. And I love that. And I think it's such a powerful tie-in, Nathan. I interrupted you, but that burst of thought hit me. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
No problem at all. And I think the message that I would give to a young person is surrender. You just don't know. And the truth is, the Great Commission is really a team goal. And while God may call you to the mission field, he may ask you to play a supporting role. Yes. It may be, maybe you're great with electronics and you could help the Peelers with solar. Maybe it would be video or websites or graphics, or there's so many ways that we can be involved in missions. And just because God may not call you to go, doesn't mean he hasn't called you to be involved.
I'm so glad you said that. And I think about tonight, I look down and I see our friend Jessica Davis, and now Jessica gets a shout out, and of course she'll be thrilled. But Jessica, she said she appreciates Nathan and Hannah and your daughter Grace, and that she said that the Peeler video was moving. And she said tonight she's asking, what am I doing here? I don't want my life to be consumed with 1,000 meaningless tasks. I want my life to count. Nathan's found his calling. It's to take and capture with a lens the harvest field. The harvest is ripe. It's white unto harvest. It's ready. We lack laborers, and the sole answer for the lack of laborers is prayer. Nathan Fry, thank you for telling us the story. I encourage you to share the news about Lens of the Harvest everywhere you go, and answer this question tonight. What am I doing here? Thank you, Nathan, for being with us. And tonight, I want you to think about this with me tonight. What are you doing? This missions conference hasn't been about money. It's been about your heart. This missions conference isn't about trying to stir a guilt trip to make you give more. This is about God is doing stuff around the world, and you ought to be involved in what he's doing. You ought to be where he is working, and you ought to be on fire for your missions program at your church. You ought to be praying. You ought to be giving at your church. And you ought to be involved in the work that God's called you to do. I leaned forward in my chair that day and I said, what am I doing here? And tonight I leave you with that question. What are you doing where you are? Is it where God wants you to be? The Peelers need help. And there's a lot more places just like that. So on this final missions conference night, I say to you, farewell. I say to you, you will see us again. You'll see us soon. And we want you to be a part of what God is doing at your church. So for the final time for this conference from Worldwide New Testament Baptist Missions in Kings Mountain, I say to you, good night.